He had 60 seconds to choose. Destroy an innocent child's life for $50,000. Or watch his wife die. Marcus chose the money. The boy went to jail. But when the same evil comes for his own son, he discovers the most horrifying truth of all. The money was never real. He sold his soul for nothing. The courtroom was dead silent. Marcus Thompson stood behind the wooden table, his hands shaking as he held the piece of paper that would destroy an innocent boy's life. The judge's eyes were fixed on him, waiting for his answer. In the back of the room, 12-year-old Tommy sat next to his crying mother, not understanding why the man he trusted was about to lie about him. Marcus looked at the paper again. The words were simple, but they felt like poison in his mouth. All he had to do was read them out loud, and Tommy would go to a place for troubled kids. The boy would lose his future, his dreams, everything. But Marcus would get more money than he had ever seen in his life. His throat felt dry. The courtroom seemed to spin around him. In his pocket, he could feel the thick envelope full of cash that Mr. Richardson had given him just an hour ago.
$52,000.
Enough to pay for his sick wife's medicine. Enough to save his house from being taken away. Enough to give his own son a better life. Mr. Thompson, the judge said, his voice cutting through the silence like a knife. Are you ready to give your statement? Marcus's heart pounded so hard he thought everyone could hear it. He looked at Tommy one more time. The boy's eyes were wide with fear, but they still held trust. Trust in Marcus. Trust that the man who had been like a father to him would tell the truth. But Marcus had already made his choice. He opened his mouth, and the first lie began to spill out. 3 months earlier, Marcus Thompson was not a bad man. At least, that's what he told himself every morning when he looked in the mirror. He was a social worker who helped kids in trouble. He visited families, wrote reports, and tried to make sure children were safe and happy. Marcus lived in a small house on Maple Street with his wife Sarah and their 8-year-old son, Jake. Sarah was sick with a disease that made her very weak, and the medicine she needed cost more money than Marcus made at his job. They were behind on paying for their house, and Marcus worried every day that they might lose it. But Marcus loved his job. He especially loved helping the kids who had no one else to care about them. One of these kids was Tommy Rodriguez, a 12-year-old boy who lived with his grandmother after his parents died in a car crash. Tommy was different from other kids. He was very smart, but he also got into trouble sometimes. Not bad trouble, just things like skipping school or staying out too late. His grandmother, Mrs. Rodriguez, was old and couldn't control him. She called Marcus often, asking for help. "Please, Mr. Thompson," she would say in her shaky voice. "Tommy is a good boy, but he needs someone strong to guide him. You are the only one he listens to." Marcus would visit Tommy every week. They would sit on the front porch of the old house, and Marcus would talk to the boy about making better choices. Tommy looked up to Marcus like the father he never had. "I want to be like you when I grow up," Tommy said one afternoon. "I want to help people too." Marcus smiled and patted the boy's shoulder. "You can be anything you want, Tommy. You just have to stay out of trouble and work hard in school." But staying out of trouble was hard for Tommy. He lived in a neighborhood where older kids sold drugs and got into fights. Some of them tried to get Tommy to join them, but he always said no. He remembered what Marcus taught him about making good choices. One day, something happened that would change everything. Tommy was walking home from school when he saw a group of older boys surrounding a little girl. They were trying to take her backpack, and she was crying. Tommy knew he should walk away. Marcus had told him to avoid fights, but he couldn't let the little girl get hurt. "Leave her alone," Tommy shouted, running toward them. The older boys laughed. "What are you going to do about it, little man?" one of them said. Tommy was scared, but he stood between the boys and the little girl. "I said leave her alone." The boys pushed Tommy and he fell to the ground. But other people on the street saw what was happening and came to help. The older boys ran away, and the little girl was safe. "Thank you," the little girl whispered to Tommy before running home to her mother. Tommy felt proud. He had done the right thing just like Marcus taught him. He couldn't wait to tell Marcus about it. But when Tommy got home, his grandmother was not alone. Two police officers were sitting in her living room, and they looked very serious. "Tommy," one of the officers said, "we need to talk to you about something that happened today." Tommy's heart started beating fast. "What about?" "A store owner says you stole candy from his shop this afternoon." Tommy's eyes went wide. "What? No, I didn't. I was at school, and then I helped a little girl, and then I came home. I didn't steal anything." But the store owner, Mr. Chun, had told the police that he saw Tommy take candy and run away. He even had a security camera, he said, though it wasn't working that day. "I'm telling the truth," Tommy said, tears starting to form in his eyes. "I would never steal. Mr. Thompson taught me that stealing is wrong." The police officers looked at each other. One of them wrote something in a notebook. "We'll have to investigate this, son. Someone will come to talk to you soon." After the police left, Tommy's grandmother held him close. "I believe you, Mijo," she said. "You are a good boy." But Tommy was scared. He knew that sometimes good people got in trouble for things they didn't do. He needed Marcus to help him. Marcus would know what to do. The next day, Marcus got a call from his boss, Mrs. Patterson. "Marcus, I need you to investigate the Tommy Rodriguez case. There's been a report that he stole from a store." Marcus felt his stomach drop. Not Tommy. The boy would never steal. Marcus knew him too well. "I'll take care of it," Marcus said. "Tommy's a good kid. There must be a mistake." But when Marcus started looking into the case, he found out something shocking. The store owner, Mr. Chun, was not just any store owner. He was connected to very powerful people in the city. People who had a lot of money and influence. And one of those people was Mr. Richardson, the richest man in town. Marcus had heard stories about Mr. Richardson. He owned many businesses and had connections with judges, police, and politicians. People said he could make problems disappear or create them. Marcus didn't understand why Mr. Richardson would care about a 12-year-old boy stealing candy. But he was about to find out. 3 days later, Marcus was working late in his office when someone knocked on his door. He opened it to find a man in an expensive suit standing there. "Mr. Thompson? My name is James Richardson. I think we need to talk." Marcus felt a chill go down his spine. Mr. Richardson was shorter than he expected, but there was something about his eyes that made Marcus feel uncomfortable. They were cold and calculating, like a snake's eyes. "What can I do for you, Mr. Richardson?" Marcus asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Mr. Richardson smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. "May I come in?" Marcus stepped aside, and Mr. Richardson walked into the small office. He looked around at the old furniture and the papers scattered on the desk. "You have a nice little setup here," Mr. Richardson said. "I heard you're working on the Rodriguez case." "Yes, sir. But I'm not supposed to discuss cases with outsiders?" Mr. Richardson interrupted. "Mr. Thompson, I'm not an outsider. I'm a concerned citizen who wants to see justice done." Marcus felt confused. "Justice? But Tommy is innocent. I've known him for 2 years. He would never steal." Mr. Richardson sat down in the chair across from Marcus's desk without being invited. "That's where you're wrong, Mr. Thompson. Tommy Rodriguez is a troubled boy who needs to be stopped before he becomes a dangerous criminal." "That's not true," Marcus said, his voice getting louder. "Tommy is a good kid who just needs guidance. He's never been in serious trouble before." "Maybe not serious trouble," Mr. Richardson said, pulling out a folder from his briefcase. "But look at this." He spread papers across Marcus's desk. They showed reports of small incidents involving Tommy: skipping school, staying out late, talking back to teachers. By themselves, they weren't serious. But when put together, they painted a picture of a boy who was heading down a bad path. "This is normal stuff," Marcus said. "Every kid does these things. It doesn't mean Tommy is a criminal." Mr. Richardson leaned forward. "Mr. Thompson, let me tell you something about this neighborhood. It's full of kids who start with normal stuff and end up selling drugs, joining gangs, and hurting innocent people. Tommy Rodriguez is going to follow that same path unless someone stops him. So what are you suggesting? Marcus asked. I'm suggesting that Tommy needs to be placed in a facility where he can get the help he needs, away from the bad influences in his neighborhood. Marcus shook his head. You mean juvenile detention? That would destroy his future. He'd be labeled as a criminal for the rest of his life. Sometimes we have to make hard choices for the greater good, Mr. Richardson said. And sometimes those choices come with rewards for people who are willing to do the right thing. What do you mean? Mr. Richardson reached into his jacket and pulled out a thick envelope. He placed it on the desk between them. Open it, he said. Marcus's hands trembled as he opened the envelope. Inside was more money than he had ever seen at once. Hundreds of dollar bills, stacked neatly together. There's $50,000 there, Mr. Richardson said quietly. Enough to pay for your wife's medicine for the next 2 years. Enough to save your house. Enough to give your son the education he deserves. Marcus stared at the money. His mouth felt dry. What do you want me to do? I want you to do your job, Mr. Richardson said. I want you to write a report that says Tommy Rodriguez is a danger to society and needs to be removed from his home. I want you to testify in court that you believe he stole from Mr. Chen's store. But he didn't steal anything, Marcus said. I can't lie in court. Mr. Richardson's eyes got colder. Mr. Thompson, let me explain something to you. Mr. Chen is prepared to testify that he saw Tommy steal. The police report will support his story. The only question is whether you're going to be on the right side of this case or the wrong side. The right side is telling the truth. The truth, Mr. Richardson laughed. The truth is that your wife is going to die without her medicine. The truth is that you're going to lose your house next month. The truth is that your son is going to grow up poor and struggle his whole life. Unless you're smart enough to take this opportunity. Marcus looked at the money again. He thought about Sarah, lying in their bed, getting weaker every day. He thought about Jake, who needed new shoes but couldn't get them because there was no money. He thought about the notices from the bank, threatening to take their house away. I can't, Marcus whispered. I can't lie about an innocent boy. Mr. Richardson stood up. Think about it, Mr. Thompson. You have until tomorrow night to decide. If you choose to help us, keep the money. If you choose to be stubborn, put it back in the envelope and leave it on your desk. But remember, Tommy Rodriguez is going to end up in the system anyway. You can't save him. The only question is whether you're going to save your own family. Mr. Richardson walked toward the door, then stopped. Oh, and Mr. Thompson, if you decide to be difficult, I can make sure you lose your job. Then you'll have no money and no way to help Tommy anyway. Think about that. After Mr. Richardson left, Marcus sat alone in his office, staring at the money. His hands shook as he picked up the bills. They felt real. They smelled like his salvation, but they also felt like poison. Marcus thought about Tommy's trusting eyes. He thought about the boy's dreams of helping people when he grew up. He thought about how Tommy looked up to him like a father. Then he thought about Sarah, coughing in their bed, too weak to even make dinner. He thought about Jake, who asked every day why Mommy was so sick and when she would get better. Marcus closed his eyes and tried to pray, but no words came. He was trapped between saving an innocent boy and saving his own family. How could he choose? The money sat on his desk like a test that would determine what kind of man Marcus Thompson really was. He sat there for hours, until the sun went down and the office grew dark. The money seemed to glow in the moonlight coming through the window. Finally, Marcus made his choice. He picked up the envelope but his decision would have to wait, because at that moment his phone rang. It was the hospital. Mr. Thompson? This is Dr. Martinez. I'm calling about your wife. She's taken a turn for the worse. You need to come immediately. Marcus dropped the envelope and ran out of the office, leaving the money scattered across his desk. As he drove to the hospital, he couldn't stop thinking about Mr. Richardson's words. Your wife is going to die without her medicine. At the hospital, Marcus sat by Sarah's bed, holding her hand. She was unconscious, breathing with the help of machines. The doctor spoke to Marcus in the hallway. I'm sorry, Mr. Thompson. We've done everything we can with the treatments she's been getting. But there's an experimental medicine that might help. It's very expensive, and insurance won't cover it. How expensive? Marcus asked. About $60,000 for a 6-month treatment. Marcus felt like he was drowning.
$62,000.
He didn't have $60,000, but he knew someone who did. When Marcus got home that night, Jake was asleep on the couch. The babysitter had left a note saying she couldn't stay past midnight. Marcus looked at his son's peaceful face and felt his heart breaking. He went to his bedroom and opened the drawer where he kept important papers. Inside was a life insurance policy. If Sarah died, Marcus would get some money. But not enough to give Jake a good life. Not enough to pay for college or buy a decent house in a safe neighborhood. Marcus sat on the edge of his bed and put his head in his hands. He felt like he was being torn apart from the inside. The next morning, Marcus went to visit Tommy. The boy was sitting on his grandmother's porch, looking sad. "Mr. Thompson," Tommy said, jumping up. "I'm so glad you're here. Did you find out about the store thing? Did you tell them I didn't steal anything?" Marcus looked at Tommy's hopeful face and felt sick. "I'm still working on it, Tommy." "I knew you would help me," Tommy said. "My grandmother says some people don't believe me, but I told her you would make everything okay. You always tell the truth." Those words hit Marcus like a punch to the stomach. "You always tell the truth." "Tommy," Marcus said slowly, What if sometimes telling the truth was really hard? What if it might hurt people you love?" Tommy thought about this seriously. "My dad used to tell me that the truth is like a light. Even when it's hard to see, it's always there. And if you turn off the light, everything gets dark and scary." Marcus nodded, but he felt like he was already in the dark. That afternoon, Marcus went back to his office. The money was still there, scattered on his desk where he had left it. He gathered it up and put it back in the envelope. For a moment, he thought about calling Mr. Richardson and telling him no. But then he thought about Sarah in the hospital, and Jake sleeping on the couch, and the bills piling up on his kitchen table. Marcus picked up his phone and dialed Mr. Richardson's number. "I was hoping you'd call," Mr. Richardson said when he answered. "Have you made your decision?" Marcus closed his eyes. "I need to know something first." "Why, Tommy? Why is this so important to you?" There was a pause. "Let's just say that Tommy Rodriguez's grandmother owns a piece of property that I need for a development project. If Tommy goes into the system, she'll have to sell the house to pay for legal fees. It's just business, Mr. Thompson. You're destroying a child's life for a piece of property? I'm preventing a future criminal from hurting innocent people, and I'm helping you save your family. We both get what we want." Marcus felt nauseous. "What exactly do you need me to do?" "Write a report recommending that Tommy be placed in juvenile detention. Testify that, in your professional opinion, he's a danger to society. Make it convincing. And if I do this, you'll give me the money?" "The money is yours already. I'm just asking you to earn it." Marcus looked at the envelope again.
$52,000.
Plus his salary, it would be enough to help Sarah. Maybe enough to save her. "I'll do it," Marcus whispered. "Good. I'll send you the details of what to include in your report." The hearing is scheduled for next week. After he hung up, Marcus sat in his office and wrote the report that would destroy Tommy's life. Every word felt like a betrayal, but he kept thinking about Sarah, and somehow he found the strength to keep writing. When he finished, Marcus looked at what he had written. It was full of lies and exaggerations. It painted Tommy as a dangerous boy who needed to be locked up. Anyone reading it would think Tommy was a criminal, but it would save Sarah's life. Marcus sealed the report in an envelope and put it in his desk drawer. Then he went home to tell his wife that everything was going to be okay. "How?" Sarah asked weakly from her hospital bed. "How are we going to pay for the treatment?" "I got a bonus at work," Marcus lied. "A big one. Don't worry about the money. Just focus on getting better." Sarah smiled for the first time in weeks. "I love you, Marcus. You're such a good man." Marcus kissed her forehead, but her words felt like knives in his heart. He wasn't a good man. He was a man who had sold his soul for money. But maybe Sarah would live. Maybe that was worth it. The week passed quickly. Marcus avoided Tommy and his grandmother, making excuses when they called. He couldn't bear to look at the boy, knowing what he was about to do. Finally, the day of the hearing arrived. Marcus put on his best suit and drove to the courthouse. In his briefcase was the report that would send Tommy to juvenile detention.
Part 2.
In his pocket
below.
was the envelope of money.